from the Museum of Asian African Conference here in Bandung. Welcome to House News.
BKSAP invited academics to contribute ideas for strengthening international relations and improving educational collaboration through student exchange programs. Commission 7 demands a review of safety supervision for extreme tourism in response to the fatal incident on Mount Rinjani involving a Brazilian tourist. US President sent an official letter to President Prabowo stated the US would continue to impose 32% import tariff on goods from Indonesia, despite a series of trade negotiations over the past few months. Reports of human trafficking under the guise of study and internship programs abroad has been in the public spotlight after it was revealed several universities in Indonesia were connected to the crime. The Asian African Conference Museum, located in the heart of Bandung, was uniquely established to commemorate the historic 1955 Asian African Conference.
During a visit to Universitas Islam Indonesia in Yogyakarta, BKSAP held a discussion with academics on strengthening Indonesia's soft power diplomacy. BKSAP emphasized universities play a role in promoting person-to-person diplomacy.
Vice Chairperson of BKSAP of the House Bramantio Suwondo stated, while intergovernmental and interparliamentary diplomacy can face obstacles due to global political dynamics, people-to-people diplomacy such as student exchanges and international scholarships continue to strengthen international relations. He believes soft power diplomacy can promote Indonesia's tourism and cultural diversity on the global stage.
Kami juga yakin dengan proses penguatan diplomasi people to people ini melewati pertukaran pelajaran dan juga beasiswa memperkuat representasi Indonesia di luar negeri melewati kulinernya, budayanya maupun juga cara pandangnya sehingga Indonesia semakin terlihat kontribusinya dalam perkembangan dunia.
In addition, Rector of Universitas Islam Indonesia Fatul Wahid welcomed the discussion forum with BKSAP. He mentioned dialogue between parliament and universities creates broader opportunities for collaborations, especially in promoting fair policies and enhancing the quality of higher educations in Indonesia.
Supaya apa? Supaya kualitas pendidikan Indonesia semakin baik dan ada kesetaraan antara perguruan tinggi swasta dan perguruan tinggi negeri, tidak hanya dalam kebijakan di atas kertas, tapi juga dalam operasional di lapangan.
From Yogyakarta, Temi Riansyah, TV Parliament reports.
Commission 7 urges an evaluation on procedures at extreme tourist destinations after the death of a Brazilian visitor who fell on Mount Rinjani. The incident is a reminder to take tourist safety more seriously, especially in high-risk areas.
Chairperson of Commission 7 of the House Saleh Partawanan demands the Ministry of Tourism and all related tourism stakeholders to evaluate current safety measures and also to implement preventive actions to avoid accidents at tourist sites. This includes raising awareness of potential hazards, improving rescue systems, and conducting strict checks on tourists entering dangerous areas. He also reminded nature communities to always be well prepared and calculate potential risks before starting a hiking expeditions to ensure a safe and secure climb.
Bagaimana memperingatkan atau memberikan pemberitahuan secara khusus kepada mereka-mereka yang memang komunitas pencinta alam. Jika mereka memang tetap menginginkan untuk melakukan pendakian pada gunung-gunung yang seperti itu, maka mereka harus meningkatkan upaya keselamatannya masing-masing.
Meanwhile, member of Commission 7 of the House Samuel Watimena mentioned the government and tourism destination operators must plan preventive and rescue measures, including during the budget planning stage. This ensures safety needs are adequately met and quick actions can be taken if an accident occurs at a tourist site.
Nah, untuk prevention ini seringkali juga tidak cukup didanakan. Nah, ini yang menurut saya harus kita mulai memperbaiki dalam hal itu, karena kalau reaktif atau sudah terjadi, udah pasti cost-nya akan jauh lebih besar dan negatif impact-nya itu tidak bisa terbendung.
Ferdian N. Gunarso, TVA Parliament Report.
In response to US President's decision to impose a 32% import tariff on Indonesian products, the House urges the government to take immediate action and reopen negotiations with the United States to protect trade interests and maintain stable bilateral relations.
Vice Speaker of the House Adis Kadir said the 32% tariff is still subject to negotiation. He emphasized formulating financial strategies is needed to maintain national economic stability. Furthermore, Adis believed tariff increase is a challenge for Indonesia amid global economic uncertainty. However, he is optimistic Indonesia can overcome this challenge as Indonesia has strong experience during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Jadi memang ini satu tantangan bagi negara kita. Dan kita tahu bahwa setelah BRICS itu, KTT BRICS, Pak Erlangga, Menko Perekonomian juga diutus ke Amerika mungkin untuk negosiasi kembali. Jadi memang insya Allah fondasi ekonomi negara kita baik, cuman memang harus betul-betul diatur ke depan bagaimana strategi keuangan menghadapi ekonomi global yang semakin tidak menentu ini. Nah, kita tahu juga Menteri Keuangan, semua stakeholder yang terkait juga melakukan upaya-upaya agar supaya apa yang dilakukan oleh pemerintah Amerika Serikat yang hari ini kemarin kita dengarkan masih ancaman 10%, tapi hari ini sudah ditetapkan untuk Indonesia ya 32%, ya mudah-mudahan kita dapat melalui dengan baik.
President Trump announced a 32% import tariff on Indonesian goods starting August 1, 2025. The tariff is part of a new policy targeting 14 countries, mostly in Asia. Many of these countries will also face extra charges on goods shipped through other countries. Andri, TVA Parliament reports.
After the break, we bring you more interesting information from economic sector. So stay tuned to House News. Member of Commission 10 of the House strongly believe the overseas internship program is not a real educational activity. The program is suspected to trick students and parents by offering promises of studying or working abroad.
Member of Commission 10 of the House Inyoman Parta stated the study and internship program launched during the former Minister of Education and Culture Nadiem Makarim has been widely implemented but lacked proper supervision. This lack of oversight has led to various exploitative practices for financial gain. One example is the alleged scheme involving the Institute of Technology and Business di Kombali. As a matter of fact, students sent abroad for internship were made to work as factory laborers, plantation workers, or domestic helpers, without receiving the academic instructions they were promised as part of their university educations.
Kan hanya di Bali, di Sumatera, di Sulawesi, di Jakarta, kan banyak kampus-kampus yang menyelenggarakan pendidikan kuliah sambil magang. Kuliah magang itu kurikulum atau kebijakan yang diambil oleh pada saat Menteri Nadiem. Nah, namun karena luasan cakupannya dan tidak dikontrol dengan baik gitu, lapangannya cover magang ini hanya dipakai untuk merekrut mahasiswa, tetapi sesungguhnya mereka diperlakukan seperti PMI, pekerja migran. Sehingga dari awal memang skemanya kerja di mana sebagai apa. Jadi kalau magang kampus harusnya kan kalau di sini dia magang tentang ilmu komunikasi, di tempat yang baru di luar negeri dia nyambung dengan kuliah tentang komunikasi.
Additionally, Inyoman Parta urged the Ministry of Education, Culture, Research and Technology to follow up on this issue immediately, not only in Bali, but also in other regions to ensure no more universities exploit students by committing human trafficking for profit. From Bali, Akbar Prayoga, TVR Parliament reports.
The MSME sector is recognized as the backbone of Indonesia's economy. These enterprises play a role in improving economic development, contributing the largest share to the gross domestic product or GDP, and supporting millions of livelihoods in Indonesia.
According to data from the Ministry of Cooperatives and SMEs, the MSME sector contributes more than 60% of GDP. In 2024, MSMEs contributed 60% to Indonesia's GDP, which is equivalent to 8,000 trillion rupiah. By the end of 2024, the number of MSMEs in Indonesia had reached 64 million business units. All of them are spread across various provinces in Indonesia, making the benefits more equally accessible to all. Based on data from the Ministry of Finance, MSMEs absorbs 97% of Indonesia's workforce, drive the local economy through various types of businesses, such as household consumer goods and services to agriculture and fisheries. Despite the significant growth, MSMEs face serious challenges when competing with foreign products. Therefore, Commission 6 of the House demands the standardizations of MSME products to maintain consistent quality. Clear criteria are needed to assess the feasibility and quality of these products.
Sehingga tujuannya UMKM kita yang ada di Indonesia yang sekarang sudah mulai booming ini mampu bersaing tidak hanya lokal, mampu bersaing tidak hanya sesama tetangga, tapi bersaing dengan internasional, global. Nah, karena mau bersaing untuk global, maka diperlukan standarisasi tadi, kelayakan untuk dikonsumsi secara standar internasional.
The Indonesian national standard is being implemented in traditional markets and among MSMEs as a strategy to boost the competitiveness of local products. However, progress has been slow, where 60 out of 15,000 traditional markets have achieved certifications.
Ini masih relatif kecil yang sudah ditangani oleh BSN atau SNI. Dan bahkan ini masih ada tugas daripada SNI, me-SNI-kan pasar tradisional yang sekarang ini jumlahnya ada sekitar 15.000, tapi SNI-nya baru tidak lebih dari 60 pasar tradisional.
The issue of standardization has drawn attention as many MSME actors struggle to meet the standards due to cost factors and lack of understanding. Therefore, the House encourages the government to ease the standardization process.
The government has projected the state budget deficit reach 2.7% of GDP, which is higher than expected. In response, Commission 11 urges the government to increase national oil production as a way to increase revenue and ease the fiscal pressure.
Member of Commission 11 of the House Andi Yuliani stated, if oil lifting performance could gradually be increased to 1 million barrels per day, it would increase state revenue and reduce the budget deficit. Although Law No. 17 of 2003 on state finance sets the maximum budget deficit at 3%, the current deficit of 2.78% gives a risk of increasing national debt due to high government spending and weak state revenue.
Nah, tentu kita berharap kalau misalnya harga minyak lebih dari $8,2 per barel, itu lebih dari itu, wah ini akan mempengaruhi juga memperlebar defisit. Kita harapkan ke depannya lifting minyak itu bisa meningkat walaupun kebutuhan kita memang 1 juta barel. Tapi ternyata sekarang baru sekitar 500 sampai 600. Jadi 400.000 ini kita masih impor nih. Ini kan juga mempengaruhi defisit.
Additionally, Andi Yuliani emphasized Indonesia's current oil demand reaches 1.6 million barrels per day. As a result, the import state budget is burdened by the importing cost up to 1 million barrels per day. Therefore, she asked the government to implement technological innovations and adopt appropriate policies to boost domestic oil lifting to 1 million barrels per day. Hilman and Rizky, TVR Parliament Report.
When we return, we have history of Bandung, so stay tuned to House News. Visiting the Museum of the Asian African Conference in Bandung is a must when traveling to West Java capital city. This historic site offers a powerful journey through the spirit of international solidarity and the fight for independence.
Held in Bandung in April 1955, the Asian African Conference was a great success in formulating common concerns and establishing operational guidance for cooperations among 29 mostly new independent Asian and African countries. And during the 25th anniversary of the conference, its original venue, Gedung Merdeka or Freedom Hall, has been turned into a small museum called Museum of the Asian African Conference. The display inside are mostly related to the conference, such as photos during the conferences, country profiles of the member, and diorama on the opening of the 1955 event. Visitors can also learn about the history, social, politics, and cultures of these countries from an audio-visual room where you can watch documentary films and cultural showcases from the participating countries. More than just a museum, this place also functions as a center for knowledge and research. Its library holds a wide range of books on the history, politics, and cultures of Asia and Africa. The space often hosts discussions, research activities, and community programs focused on international collaborations and peace building. The Asian African Conference Museum is open every day, except Monday and national holidays. The museum's professional guides are ready to give an individual or group tour.
Bandung is known for its rich history and cultural heritage. There are several historical landmarks in and around Bandung that reflect its past and contribute to its unique identity.
For history lovers, Bandung offers more than just sightseeing. It gives an emotional journey through time, with each landmark revealing a piece of the nation's past. It is a giant monument in the shape of a fiery flame built to commemorate the battle between Indonesians and Dutch forces that took place on March 25, 1946. Where the Indonesians burned and destroyed the southern part of Bandung as a strategy to fight their enemy. It is considered one of the most prominent landmarks in the city and is visited by a large number of visitors in order to take memorial photos around it. This man-made cave is the iconic feature of Tahura Juanda. It started in 1906 when the Dutch dig a tunnel to build a hydroelectric power plant. Several years later, the Dutch expanded the tunnel and used it as a bunker during World War II. Even the Indonesian government still used this cave as an ammunition warehouse until 1970s. Today, along with other facilities in Tahura Juanda, this Dutch cave is open for public. This cave is huge, Originally, there was only one main tunnel to pass through the hill. Then they added several corridors to the left and right, as well as a large door for logistics when it was used for military. Museum Sri Baduga keeps the cultural heritage collections of West Java. Sri Baduga was the name of Hindustan Sundanese king in West Java. The collection in Museum Sri Baduga are mostly high valuable historical heritages and antiques. Most of them include megalithic sculptures, traditional clothing, houses, tools, and musical instruments. One of the most interesting things in this museum is its architecture, of which shape resembles the traditional house of West Java.
Known as the Paris Van Java or the Flower City, Bandung is on the list of the top 100 best cities in the Asia Pacific for 2025. Bandung ranked even higher than some other big cities in Indonesia.
The list was released by Resonance Consultancy, a company from Canada that gives awards to the best cities around the world every year. They only choose cities with over 1 million people and use 3 main points to decide: the quality of life in the city, the level of public interest in attractions, and the strength of the local economy. These include things like rent prices, parks, tourist attractions, nightlife, shopping, reviews, and the number of big companies. One reason for Bandung's strong ranking is the popularity on the internet. Bandung is often searched on Google, has many checks-in on social media, and is used in lots of Instagram hashtags. This shows that many people, especially young people and tourists, love Bandung, not just for vacations, but also as a creative and exciting place to live. Bandung is also popular with famous places and green spaces. Streets like Jalan Braga, nature spots like Kawah Putih, and areas like Dago Pakar show how the city mixes natural beauty with modern life. The city has also made efforts to clean rivers and build walking paths in green areas, showing care for the environment and public space. This award proves Bandung is not only popular with its cool weather and creative people, but also for being a city that continues to improve and move forward. Now Bandung is proudly recognized as one of the most comfortable, lovable, and successful cities in the Asia-Pacific region.
And that's House News for today. Thank you for watching, everyone, and have a good day. Lupa aku masih ada kerja lagi ya. And that's House News for today. Thank you for watching, everyone, and